Welcome, Gary Ray Smith, aka the
Hello,
Knitting Man. Hello, how are
hello.
you today?
I am particularly well today. Yes, having a good day.
That's good. The weather looks good there. It's rubbish here.
Yes, it's quite bright. It's quite bright today.
Yeah, you look very illuminated. So for
It's
people who
like
have
a
never seen your
halo.
art before, how would you describe it?
What I do,
Yeah.
um, well, it's one of them, innit, really. It's like I, it's. I mean, the way I sort of think about it in my head is that if you were to draw a Venn diagram and you had two circles, one which was painting, oh, I've gone dark, and one which was knitting, and
Mhm.
then it's almost impossible. I mean, I've thought for years it's almost impossible for them to join in the middle, to overlap. But that overlap is where I work. So I work in an overlap between painting and knitting on a Venn diagram. And obviously, my aim is to make that overlap um, complete so that each circle fits on top of the other, if you know what I mean, within what I do. So that's where I work. So I'm sometimes knitting and I'm sometimes painting, but they kind of refer to each other. They definitely refer to each other. So my knitting is very painterly, and my painting is about knitting, but also it's kind of a bit illustrational as well. So the sort of artists that I like are kind of artists that also sort of cross that line between painting and illustration. So yeah,
Do lots of
that's where I.
different media, don't you? Lots of
Well, I
different
don't
stuff
know if
going
it's
on.
lot. It's two main things,
Mhm.
It's two main things. So when I initially at 16, I went to art school, and I started to in the first year I did fashion and textiles for a year,
So was
and
that
then
Chelsea School of Art, right?
no, this is in Southend when I was 16. So I did
Mhm.
fashion and textiles, and I was really quite into that, but I knew that I wanted to do painting. So the following year I dropped out of that and did a foundation course so I could do painting. And then I went into Chelsea when I was 18 and did 3 years there, painting degree. So but already I was kind of hooked on the fashion and textiles thing. So that's better light, isn't it?
Yeah, can see a bit better
So
now.
but you've got my belly in it, but it's all right. So so yeah, so kind of it's yeah. I don't. I mean, I don't. I can't really compare myself to anybody else. I don't think there's anybody else that does what I do, really, precisely what I do, which is I walk a line between knitting and painting.
What was your first memory of art?
This it's an interesting one because I've seen you interview other people and you've talked about and they've talked about their first, and
Has it made
it's
you
such a,
change yours?
no, because in actual fact my first memory of art is my first ever memory. I know that sounds really crazy, but my first ever memory was we lived in like a high rise block of flats in the East End of London, and um, my first ever memory is being pushed on top of one of those coach built Silver Cross type um, prams. And they used to have a seat that you could sit on. So the elder kid would sit on the seat on top of the pram, and the little baby kid would be in the pram. And I have this vivid memory. So I can, it's quite vivid of me being sat on the top of this pram with my brother asleep in the pram underneath, and my mum pushing us out the door. And to the right of the door was this painting that my dad had bought in the 60s. Oh, sorry, everyone. And it was a painting of a woman's face. And it was just painted in reds and blacks. And my dad had the painting until recently, and he sold it at a boot sale, and I was a bit annoyed about it because it was my first ever memory.
Do you know who the painting was actually by?
No, got no idea. It wasn't signed or anything, as far as I know. It was a great painting. My dad had like picked it up in a junk shop or something in the 60s, and it was probably painted in like the 50s. And it was just sort of this. It was like household paint on this panel, and it was a good painting as far as I remember. And it was just black and red. It was almost like a screen print, but it was painted in sort of like a glossy, a red gloss paint and a black gloss paint on a white background, and it was just a woman's head, quite stylized. And yeah, that's my first ever memory. So my first ever memory is art.
Is of a painting, and you don't even know who it's by. That's really cool.
No idea. No.
So you went to Chelsea School of Art. What was that like?
Oh, it's great. I loved it. I was at Chelsea from 83 to 86, and I mean, obviously, it was a great place to be then as well. You know, on the King's Road in London, and it was great. It's a post-punk sort of age, and yeah, I mean, I remember going into my interview, and for Chelsea, and there were like 10 different tutors all sitting round. You weren't interviewed by one person; you interviewed like by this group. And I'd just seen the Craigie Aitchison exhibition at the Serpentine. Craigie Aitchison just done an exhibition there. And so I was completely starstruck when I went in there, because Craigie was sitting there and he was going through my sketchbooks and everything. And, you know, I wasn't necessarily aware of who the others were. But David Heffer would have been there, whose work is great. He does... he did. People might know his work because he had one in the Tate. I don't know if it's still in the Tate. He does, like, we're going back to high-rise buildings again. So he does like tower blocks, but almost like photorealistic tower blocks. Yeah, and at the moment I've been sort of looking back at a lot of that stuff, and I mean, Craigie is a massive influence on what I do now. And if people don't know Craigie Aitchison's work, I would definitely say go and have a look at that. But recently, there's been a lot of buzz, I think, around Ken Kiff, who was one of my tutors back then, and I've been re-looking at Ken Kiff stuff as well. So yeah, that's influencing me now. Yeah, and I suppose that's better. Oh, that's a bit better. It's a bit weird, this light, isn't it? The other thing is, I suppose there weren't so many famous people at Chelsea whilst I was there. I suppose who subsequently became famous, if you know what I mean. But we used to have brilliant lectures there. We used to have, you know, like really influential artists would come in and give us lectures. But I suppose in my year, or, you know, within my year, I think Gavin Turk was probably subsequently the most famous person. And he was doing sculpture, but I used to go down. He was in a big shared studio, and I used to go down to that studio and sit in there quite a lot. And obviously Gavin Turk's most famous for his self-portrait as Sid Vicious, which came out obviously a few years after he'd left Chelsea. But at that time, he used to be in a corner. In a corner, he used to have a dance set, which is like a little portable record player. And all I ever remember him playing, he wasn't playing punk music. All he was playing was Van Morrison all the time, day in, day out. He was playing Van Morrison on this dance set. So he must have got into Sid Vicious after that. Although, yeah, I don't know. I don't know. It's just weird. Yeah. So it's weird when I saw, oh, yeah, Gavin Turk's doing Sid Vicious. But I don't know why he didn't do himself as Van Morrison.
You have to ask him.
Yeah, I should. I'll ask him on Instagram or something. Yeah.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
I want to know too. If you could give yourself some advice back then, if you could go back and give yourself advice with everything you know now, what would you say to yourself?
Um, what are we talking about in terms of art, or are we talking about general life?
At art school, if you
At
could go
art
back and
school. Oh, I mean, at art school, I wasted it really. I wasted my 3 years at art school. Um,
why is that?
I, why?
Why do you think that is?
Well, I mean, the first year I was really good because I was at the halls of residence, which were just across the river in Battersea. So they were, I was only a few hundred yards away from college. But after that, I ended up moving out to Tottenham, so I was a fair way away. It was a fair commute. And I suppose it's easier when you're a student just to say, "Oh, I will, um, I'll just sit here and read or knit." And I think what it was back in those days. And I was talking to somebody recently, and we were talking about our art school days, and he was saying that his art school, that the fine art department was completely mixed. So there was sculpture and there was painting in it, and and I think the thing that I would do now, and I'd be able to get away with it now, because if I went to art school now and said I want to do fine art knitting, they could be going, "Oh, fill your boots." But back then, I didn't tell anyone that I was trying to knit. I didn't, and I spent 3 years practicing knitting, trying to learn to knit. So, at the time, I felt like I was on the wrong course, that I should have been doing like fashion at Central St. Martin's, like a lot of my friends were. But now, obviously, I know that I'm a fine art knitter. So it's I don't know. I mean, I don't suppose I'd do anything different, but maybe I'd just tell them that I'm spending a lot of time knitting. That's why I'm not doing very much painting. So yeah, that's probably all really.
For people who are in the process of wanting to go to art school, is there
Yeah,
any advice you'd give people to help them get in?
get in.
Yeah.
Well, I suppose it's the same with. I mean, I don't know about getting in because I mean, I don't know how. I mean, it's so long since I got in, and I don't know how I did. Obviously, they were interviewing lots and lots of people. I did have one piece of work that was quite large, which was a shop front. It was a cafe actually. It was called the Royal Hotel, Royal Cafe, and so that I did have one showy offy piece of work that looked good. So I would say maybe just you know, but I had sketchbooks as well, lots and lots of sketchbooks full of stuff. Had a lot of work when I went for my interview, an awful lot of work, and it was very diverse. And I would say that I hadn't. So maybe I don't know if it's the same, and maybe it's the fact that I hadn't actually settled on any particular style or any particular way of doing things, and that I was malleable. Not that necessarily, I felt at art school, and it's probably the same now, that it doesn't teach you about the business of art, and maybe that's perhaps what they ought to do a bit more. Yeah.
So you studied at art school, and then it was a long time before you started putting yourself out there as an artist yourself. Why is
Yeah,
that?
yeah. Well, no, I wouldn't say it's a long time because, I was always dabbling, but never really. It's difficult because obviously what happened to me is when I left art school and started having a family, I fell into a half decent job quite quickly. So I was a personnel manager for a train company. It's the Fenchurch Street line, if people want to know. So I was production personnel manager for that railway company. So, I had a mortgage and a family and, stuff like that. And then after doing that for 10 years, I thought to myself, yeah, I don't want to do this for the rest of my life. I want to do something more creative. So I thought, oh, I'll retrain. And at that time, it was called an Apple Mac operator, but nowadays you just a graphic designer with computers. But so oh, you can hold it for me. Yeah, yeah. Actually, that's so much better because the lights. Is that better?
Yeah, it looks better.
Is that better? So
Mhm.
the so, oh, it's gone dark again. I don't know what goes on with this phone. That's the problem when you get hand-me-down phones.
Mhm.
Um, from from and Mum's like, there we go. That's it. Thank you, Mum. Okay,
Mhm.
okay. So where was I? Um,
About does graphic designing.
graphic designing. And then what happened was I went to do some work for a company. It was actually like a trial. So I was doing a
Mhm.
trial for a company, work experience sort of thing for a company in Old Street, and they said to me, "Can you put up wallpaper?" And I said, "Yeah, I can put up wallpaper." I wasn't brilliant, but I said, "Yeah, I can put up wallpaper." They said, "Good, you got a job at the National Gallery tonight." So I literally took these rolls
Mhm.
of wallpaper, turned up at the National Gallery, and they said, "Oh, it's behind the desk in the shop." And I put up this old master painting in wallpaper. So this is 1998. And then I got a phone call 12 o'clock the following morning, uh, 12 o'clock lunchtime, and they said, National Gallery love it. They want it everywhere. And it was a brand new product. I mean, it's an industry standard product now, but then it wasn't. It was unheard of. So I ended up I ended up doing wallpaper for years and years and years, and subsequently I stayed in the sign business really for 20 years, mostly within the sign industry. So I pretty much I did 30 years in industry, and it wasn't really until lockdown. You need to sort of turn it to that. Yeah, yeah, yeah. You can't see it, can you?
Right, I'm going to
Um,
buy you a camera stand. That's my conclusion.
I've got a camera stand, but it's in my studio and I'm at home. So anyway, um, so I did 30 years in industry, and then what happened was during lockdown, I knitted myself a jumper. I've got it here. So I knitted myself this jumper. Now I was already of the belief that you can't make any money from knitting. I was already of that belief. So I thought I'll just knit it for me. You can't make any money out of it. So I knitted that jumper, and then um, my daughter Pansy, she had a baby called Doris, and Pansy said, "Can you do a blanket for Doris?" Now I knit baby blankets for all of my grandchildren. So she's like, "Can you knit Doris the same blanket or a similar blanket?" So I knitted that and I put it on Instagram, and people were like, "Can we buy the pattern? Can we buy the pattern?" So I went back to work after lockdown, and by this time the patterns were selling. We were selling lots and lots of the pattern. And I said to work, "Oh, I want to go part time, please." And they said, no, no, we're too busy. You're too important. We can't let you go part time. I said, well, in that case, I think I'll just take the jump and I'll leave. And they said, do you want to go part time? And I went, yeah, okay, I'll go part time. So I dropped down. So since then, I've dropped down 4 days to 3 days to 2 days. And last year I was doing one. And so this year, so January 24 is the beginning of me being a full-time artist, if you like. Yeah.
I
So
like it that you double bluffed it.
yeah. Well, I don't think it was that. Well, I don't think I was. I think it was probably true. That I would have left and tried to do it then, because I really didn't like going back to work after lockdown. But I'd always planned that what I would do is become an artist when I retire at whatever it is, 67. So I'm not even 60 yet, and I'm already doing what I plan to do in my retirement. So that's good. But what's really happened, and I've sent some photos because I've got nothing to show you because people keep buying my paintings. So as soon as I'm making paintings, they're literally being sold. And I've been selling through a gallery down here in Cornwall, in Falmouth, and I think the last one, it was on for 2 days and it sold, and the one prior to that was on their website for 1 day. So at the moment I'm trying to get up a body of work. So what I've done is I've sent you some pictures of my paintings, and you'll see the crossover. So generally, I paint someone called Claude, Claude de Crepney, and he's named after my mother-in-law's father, who was called Claude. And he's like my alter ego, and he's someone I've painted since the 90s, but I've also signed. So back then I would have been doing some serious painting, proper painting, take me 3 years to finish it type painting. And then I would also do some sort of naive type paintings, on old frames and old canvases and that sort of stuff. And those paintings I would sign Claude. But nowadays I find I'm not doing any of the proper painting. I can paint as Claude. So I sign my paintings as Claude de Crepney, and it keeps it separate from my knitting, if you like, where I'm Gary Ray Smith. But I do sign them on the back as
so your paintings are at Sailor's Jail, right? How did that come about?
Well, I just really liked, there's a lot of, can we say Ponzi galleries? Can you say Ponzi?
Of course, yeah, you can say Ponzi.
A lot of like Ponzi galleries, I think especially around here, a lot of galleries where they, there's stuff that they, and Sailor's Jail's not like that, but there's lots of galleries and it's like interior decoration. Do you know what I mean? So it's all like, oh, that's a lovely, like, there's a green one. You can put that in that green room. It will suit it type stuff. But I felt with Sailor's Jail because that sort of illustrational thing that I was talking about earlier, where I really like. So I like, say, John Patrick Byrne, the Scottish painter who recently died. Strangely, he used to sign stuff Patrick, so he'd do some sort of naive stuff and sign it Patrick. And then he, John Byrne, but John Patrick Byrne he was at the end. People like that who, he did a lot of illustrations, a lot of record covers for like Jerry Rafferty and people like that. So Billy Connolly. So I like people that cross over between painting and illustration, And another one that I like is Kit Williams. And I think us Generation Xers that were around when Kit Williams' Masquerade came out, I think a lot of us, I think, uh, I've seen sort of interviews with painters of my age and artists of my age, and they all talk about Kit Williams being an influence
That was
from the
something I
late.
was going to ask you about, is what specific influences and inspirations do you have?
Well, I mean, there's so many. In terms of artists, I've talked about quite a few of those. So John Patrick Byrne, Kit Williams, and uh, Craig Yates, and Ken Keith. And but I'm always looking. I'm always looking at different stuff. I bought 3 books this morning. But I bought a book about the British Raj, and just because I'm working on a Claude painting where he is going to be, because my Claude paintings, I've not really talked about them, but he has a moustache. So my theory is that he is uh, he's a model from about 1900 for French bicycle posters. That's his day job.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and he's always got a nice tash, and he
Mhm.
goes around the world, and he has a woman in each port, and so sometimes he might wear a captain's cap, and he might have like nautical tattoos. But I'm working on this one almost like passport stamps. And this is a commission. Somebody's commissioned this Claude.
Mhm.
So he might have like the Taj Mahal on his chest. So the places he's been. So I'm so when you say, what's, old, no, I'm looking at the moment today, I have been looking at old drawings from India from like the 1700s, that sort of thing. Just because I'm thinking about that as his tattoos. But yeah, lots of references. You just what it is. You take all these things in, don't you? Oh, I'll tell you who's another artist, Peter Blake, massively. Yeah, really massively Peter Blake. And you get that kind of vintage thing with Peter Blake as well, which I'm sort of really into. So yeah, I don't know if I'm
Uh,
explaining this very well.
what is the connection between your painting and knitting then directly for you?
Going back to when I was 16, one of the things that I learned, apart from that pattern cutting, so I knew how to shape a garment. So I knew at 16 how to shape a garment. And when I knit, I'm concerned about surface pattern design. So it's all about the image, the surface image. But one of the other things I'd say, and I'm going back to illustration here, is that when I was 16, I was doing fashion illustration as well, because if you design a dress or you design a suit or whatever, you need to be able to draw it first. So you're
Mm.
drawing it on figure on a piece of paper. So my Claudes now, because a lot of the time, sometimes he's just got tattoos, but sometimes he's wearing my jumpers. So he's a model for my designs. And when I knit, I produce about 2 or 3 things a year. So, I'm working on this bunny vest at the
Mhm.
moment. I know it's a hair. Can you see that? You can't.
Controversial. Yeah, I
I,
can see it.
yeah. So I'm
Mhm.
working on that. but I've also painted, clawed in that.
Mm-hmm.
So, but the thing is, because I can only knit 2 or 3 things a year, but I can paint a painting a week. So it allows me. I don't paint a painting a week because I'm doing other things a lot of the time, but I could paint a painting a week. So I find that it's a way of me. It's clearing the ideas. It's clearing the ideas out of my head, because my head's just full of lots and lots of ideas. I can clear them all out, put them on canvas, and then decide which I'm going to knit. I can then, it helps me to crystallize, to determine which ones are going to work. So it's part of the process.
You sell your paintings, but you don't sell your knitting. Why is that?
I don't sell my knitting because it's not viable.
Mhm.
Because, you know, if I was to say, I've been knitting this since I went on holiday. When did I go on holiday, Joe? June. So how many months is that? 4 months. So I've been knitting that for 4 months, probably what, a couple of hours a day. I don't know how many hours it works out to, but when I knit something, there's at least 100 or 200 hours in something, maybe. So 200 hours. If I wanted to pay myself minimum wage, it was about a tenner. So, you know, 200 hours at a tenner, it would be £2,000. So,
Why do you think that's too much?
People have asked.
oh yeah, people have asked me in the past, how much would it be for me to commission a jumper from you?
Mhm.
And what I always, well, in the past I used to say, well, it's going to be £2,000, and people go, oh, that's a lot of money. And then now I say, are you aware? I don't say it's going to cost £200. Are you aware there's 200 hours working in it? And then let them do the maths, and
Mhm.
let them decide that they can't afford it. So yeah, that's why I don't sell anything. So I just knit for love, really. But I found recently it's more than that, because people like what I do. So I end up selling the patterns, and that has allowed me the freedom to give up work and concentrate on what I do, which includes my painting. And what's happened is that my painting has kind of come to the fore, because I can't paint enough paintings. There's a demand. There's a demand out there for my paintings, and you know, it surprised me. It surprises me, because I mean, they go, well. I say they go, well, they mainly go to America, so they mostly sell to the States. And yeah, that shocked me. But
What made you start a YouTube in the first place?
my YouTube channel,
The Knitting
um,
Man.
the Knitting Man YouTube channel. Well, I think it was at the time, my Instagram was flatlining, so it was. I think it was about 5,000 at the time, my Instagram,
Yeah.
when I started with the YouTube channel. And I thought, well, if we start that, then we might get some other people interested in what I do. It was just after lockdown as well, so it's the time when I'm starting. I've got an extra day in the week that I could
Mhm.
spare to kind of share with people what I do. And so I put it to people that that's what I was going to do, and the feedback was generally, Dad, don't do it. It takes 125 videos, and it takes about 2 years for the average person to get monetized? Well, we did it in 5 weeks with 7 videos. So not that we earn a lot of money from the YouTube video, from our YouTube channel. Very little really. But but what it has done, I suppose, it's found a different audience, and just like TikTok has found a different audience as well. So we've got in actual fact, our TikTok is growing much faster than our YouTube. Our YouTube just grows very slowly. Our TikTok grows quite fast. But obviously, I mean, Instagram has blossomed. Is that the word?
Yeah.
Interim. So our Instagram's quite strong
now. You messaged on our Instagram and said that you sold Simeon Stafford a coffin.
I did.
I need to ask. What?
Yeah, well, it was. I thought you were going to ask, was it used?
Yeah, why would I ask that?
Well, the answer is yes. It was a used coffin. It had.
How was it used?
In it, it was a metal. It was coffin shaped. It was a metal coffin that was used. That's used for transporting bodies. And somebody had it on the back of a van with a load of other stuff, and I said, "Yeah, I'll have that." It was like somebody had done a house clearance. He'd actually done a garden clearance, and it was in a shed. And I said, "Yes, I'll have that." And then Simeon Stafford bought it as a planter off me for 50 quid to plant up with flowers. So I don't know where his house is, but maybe he still has it with flowers planted in it. I'd like to think so.
That's hilarious. All right, cool. Where are we at? We're at Simeon Stafford's coffin. How do you know that Simeon Stafford bought it?
What? The coffin?
Yeah.
Because he gave him 50 quid and then put it under his arm and walked out with it.
So he actually came into the shop?
Simeon? Yeah, I know Simeon. Yeah.
Oh, can you ask him if I can interview him? That would be really helpful. Because I've got a painting of his that we can't work out.
He used to have exhibitions at Cornwall Contemporary, and I used to go to his private views there. And I've got there's a Simeon Stafford book. I've got it signed by him. Yeah, I don't know where he is these days.
No, neither. I was wondering whether he still lived in Cornwall or not, but I wasn't sure.
No, don't know the answer.
So in your YouTube, why do you have the knitting widow and the knitting orphans?
Well, the knitting widow is because she is. Are we going to say who she is in relation to you?
Yeah, that's fine.
Oh, okay. So your mother is the knitting widow not because she's a widow who knits, because she doesn't knit. She is a widow to knitting.
But you get a lot of controversy on that, don't you?
Well, we do sometimes get people that are widows that knit take offence.
Yeah.
Occasionally. Yes. But we haven't had any knitting orphans take offence so far. Don't know why.
Not sure about that.
So yeah. So you and
I take offence to the knitting orphan.
Oh, do you?
Yeah.
We don't use that one so much anymore, do we? The knitting orphans.
Not as much. No, it's because you can't force me to convert to knitting.
No, but the thing is, no, you're an orphan to knitting because your father never spent any time with you because as you were growing up, or he was spending too much time knitting. But at the moment, I'm spending too much time painting. So I'm getting up super early. I'm going to bed really early at the moment. So I've been going to bed like 8 o'clock at night.
When
So I
haven't
can
you?
what?
When haven't
Yeah,
you?
but I'm getting up earlier. So the other morning, I
Hmm.
left home at 2:30 in the morning,
Hmm.
and that was Sunday morning, to get to the studio. Got to the studio at 3 because you can get some hours in. You can get some hours in, and I originally got the studio to move all of the yarn out of the house to
Something else I
create.
was going to ask about was Crowdy. So
Yeah,
you've got
well,
a studio at Crowdy now, haven't you?
yeah, which is like
What's it like?
it's the biggest like studio complex in Cornwall. And it's a revelation to me. I've not had a proper studio outside of the house for over 25 years.
Is
So,
Crowdy studio is it like a new build? Because like a massive part of it burnt down, didn't it?
well, it's there's different parts. So it was an old grammar house, and then there's a new build, and I'm in the new build, which is specially designed for the arts. And but I've got a very small studio, but I've really sort of it's full up. It's absolutely rammed. I could do with a bigger studio,
Are
really.
you still using Mum's kitchen table?
In the studio, I've got Mum's old kitchen table, so she's
Look, there's a
she,
new kitchen table.
yeah, I've got the old her old dining table. It is a
Big one.
farmhouse kitchen table, and we got it from that Daphne du Maurier place. I can't think what it's called.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Mum would know if she was here. But there's a house that Daphne du Maurier, that one of her things was based in, and we went and bought it from there. This huge table, so it's like seats 12, and it just like fit in my studio space. It just takes up the whole studio space. And then I've got like a drawing board that I use as an easel. But yeah, but I'm literally, it's rammed full of. But I bought it. I took on the studio specifically to get all of the stuff out of the house, particularly the yarn. And I thought I would spend quite a lot of time just in there, just knitting quietly. And since I've been in there, the painting's like taken off for me, and I can't do any knitting. I'm too busy painting. But it's lovely. It's lovely to be painting again. Oh, I can't hear you. Why can't I hear you?
Can you hear me now?
Yes,
Did you have to get the wool out of the house because Mum pretends she has a wool allergy?
she does. And now there's no wool in the house. She's still got a wool allergy.
Well, you are sat on some right now.
Well, yeah, this is true, I suppose. Yeah, this is true. And there is still a lot. There is still a lot of wool in the house. So yeah.
Is it true that Noel Fielding recently saw one of your paintings and thought it was cool?
Well, I don't know. Somebody said that to me, but I don't know. So yeah, I mean, I wouldn't like to.
Hmm.
It's a rumor. It's a rumor. So yeah, I didn't speak to him directly. What's the matter?
Just because this one's died, that's why it keeps going off. Right.
Oh, microphone.
Hello, can you hear me better?
Yeah,
Okay, cool. That'd be cool though. We need to find out whether that's true or not. Because
yeah,
Noel Fielding's paintings are cool, aren't they?
yeah. They are. But
Um,
yeah, I mean, as far as I know, I mean that was at Sailor's Jout. But as far as I know he's the weird thing is, I know that he has been. I mean, I didn't know that when I was told that, but I now know that he's been filming locally. So that's so subsequently I found out that he's down here. So maybe it's true. I don't know. I wouldn't like to say.
I was going to ask, was there a specific moment for you when I've quoted your words here where you thought I'm shit hot?
No.
You
Did I
still
say
do you
that?
not? Yeah, you always say I'm shit hot every time you're
Um,
proud of yourself, Dad.
no, I usually say I'm down with the kids quite a lot.
Yeah, are you down with the kids?
No,
You
no,
don't think
but
so?
I say it quite a lot in my videos and stuff. But we've got this running thing because
Mhm.
because we do like what we have like an interview style going on between me and your mother. So like it might be on Instagram or YouTube where she's behind the camera and she's nagging me. She's and just like real life really. But um because my following is generally, you know, ladies,
Mhm.
I think they enjoy it that I get a bashing from my wife. Um, but yeah, we have quite a good rapport. But she's never on this side of the camera, so people always want to know who it is that's giving me this difficult time. But she doesn't like getting in front of the camera. And what she'll often do, there were a couple of YouTube videos that she was in,
Mhm.
and she she would go and take them down off of YouTube, and I didn't know they were down. And people would say, "Oh, you know, I'd really like to see Mrs. Smith because that's what we call her, Mrs. Smith. I'd really like to see Mrs. Smith." And I say, "I'll go on YouTube and have a look." But when they go, the videos have gone because she's taken them off.
So what is the
What's the question?
best and the worst critique of your art?
Um, I don't think anybody. I don't think anybody critiques it at all. I don't think. Well, I suppose they do. Well,
I
yeah.
think
I
you
mean,
get
I
some
suppose
funny ones.
on Instagram, I constantly, um, people are like, oh, yeah, that's amazing. Especially with Maniti, I get that's amazing. Um, it's different with my paintings because the paintings, in a way, with painting, that people like them because they've bought them, and then and I mean, like somebody, because my paintings tend to end up in America somehow, but somebody from Boston messaged me last week, and I get people show me the paintings on the wall, and that's always lovely when you see where a painting now lives. And it's in New York or it's in Boston or it's in Miami. That's where the last three have gone. you know, and 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 you see them on the wall and you think, wow, and they're in like beautiful houses, and it just, and that's the best feeling. That is a great feeling when that thing that you made has found a home, and that home is like, it's just miles and miles away and just, quite glamorous. That's quite good.
Mhm. And
It's
if
it's
we're
not as such, but it really does give you a boost.
if we're talking about the worst, I was going to say potentially Beavis and Butthead did a YouTube on you, didn't they?
Oh, yeah, they did. Yeah,
It's
they
the
did.
funniest
That is
potentially.
quite that is quite funny because that was my first YouTube video. So I was really nervous, and although we started YouTube, and I was like, hello, my name is Gary. I was really, I mean, now I'm not conscious.
That's the
I'm an
point I'm at, Dad. That's where I'm at right now, still, that episode one.
You're very good. You're very good. But my episode one, I was absolutely terrible. Loads of people have watched it, and then yeah, we got a message from Beavis and Butthead, or Mike Judge is called, the guy that does Bevis and Butthead, and he said, I'd really like to use some clips of your episodes. And by that time, we were already monetized and everything, and I'd started to improve. And I was like, oh no, not episode 1. And then that they do. I mean, you're going to be ripped to shreds.
Yeah.
But the idea behind Beavis and Butthead, and your Uncle Matthew, he said they rip, and he knows TV, Uncle Matthew. They said they're going to rip you apart, but the joke's always on them because they are proper idiots. Yeah. And Mike Judge was really nice. He said, I really love your video, actually. It's really quaint and everything. But of course, Beavis and Butthead ripped me apart. But it was brilliant. It was a great experience. So I wouldn't say that was a negative thing at all. That's positive. I can't think of anybody really being negative. I suppose people are at times.
Yeah, I feel like that's the thing. I think is the way that you take that critique is what you make of it, and I think that's the best part. I feel I was reading some of the comments. Lots of people said that after watching that Beavis and Butthead episode, that they came and watched your videos and followed you because they thought you were great.
Yeah, we got followers on our YouTube, and loads of people commented. We're here from Beavis and Butthead, so it's not a bad thing. And they paid me as well. They do pay. It's not loads of money, but it's a little bit of money.
I think the best one, in my opinion, was that they called your first ever episode the Borigin story.
Yeah, that was really good. Yeah.
Yeah, I thought that was sick.
But of course, I haven't really talked about how I got into knitting here with you today, but that's what I talk about in that episode. And to knitters, they're fascinated, because a lot of knitters are fascinated how a man gets into knitting, when he's a young man, sort of thing. So to people that knit, it wasn't boring at all, but it would be boring to Beavis and Butthead because they're not knitters.
If you want to talk a little bit about the knitting origin story.
The Borigin story. Yeah, well, basically, I talked about when I was in that art student halls, which was just the other side of the river in Battersea. And it was called Ralph West Halls. And in the 80s, that was the hall of residence for all the art students in London. So, or, from the main, central art universities. So I had a lot of friends that were Central St Martin's fashion students, and there was a group of girls that were knitting, and I was like, showy offy sort of thing. Oh, I can knit and stuff, And they said, come on then, come and show. So I started doing a bit of knitting then. But there was a guy that used to work he used to design for Joseph, and he was called Martin Kidman. And he did some amazing stuff back in the 80s, really, really great knitting. And that was in all the glossy magazines, in your Vogue and your ID and your Face and all of those different magazines. And so I wanted to knit myself one of them because I couldn't afford, this hand knit jumper from. But the thing is, when you're young, you can jump into the deep end, not realizing you're jumping into the deep end, and trying to walk before you can run. And so that's what I was doing. But so it was something I was doing during my degree and not telling people that I was doing it. And then when I became a personnel manager, it's sort of something that I was knitting for the kids. Not that you were around at that time, but your older sisters. So I was knitting for your older sisters at the end of the 80s, beginning of the 90s. And it's something that you can carry around and put in your jacket pocket and it's portable art, really. There's, it's great, really. And also it's a good thing when you're like stuck in the car waiting for people, or, waiting for somebody while they do their ballet lesson or tennis lesson or whatever. So, you could get you could get a lot of hours in quite quickly. So my
Something
10,000,
that Mhm.
my 10,000 hours I'd probably done by the early 90s. I was quite proficient by then, and also I decided, that it was really what I wanted to do was about surface pattern design.
Can you give us just 3 really quick knitting tips?
Firstly, I always knit in the round. So even if I'm knitting something flat, I knit it in the round, and then I cut it, which is called steeking, and then I open it out. And that way I can knit a very complex pattern, because I'm always looking at the front of the knitting. Whereas normally when you knit something flat, you knit the front and you turn it over and you knit the back, and then you turn it over and knit the front. But if you're knitting in the round, you're always knitting the front. So that's number 1. Number 2 is that I don't have floats. So I don't carry floats. So when I knit, the carrying colour on the back, you see it a lot. If you look at the back of a jumper that's like 2 colours, there's great big loops of. I don't have any loops on the back. I knit all of them in as I go along, so there's no big loops on the back, and that makes it really tidy. And the other thing that I like to do is I do this thing, which is called an integrated rib. I wouldn't have thought your viewers are particularly interested in knitting, but there you go. I do an integrated rib, and then I've got less finishing to do, because when I finish, it's done. The rib's already there. Whereas a lot of knitting patterns, you add the rib after.
I think they're definitely interested in it because it's an art. Everything you do, there's an art to it. That's the point.
Yeah, but these are things that I've learned to be able to do what I do. And not many other people necessarily do it the way I do it. I do it the way I do it because I'm trying to push the boundaries of what is possible for me to do within that. I was going to say genre, not that genre, that media.
If you could collab with one artist, who would you pick?
What, dead or alive?
Yeah, either or.
Well, if I could go back in time, I really wish I'd have said to Craigie, "Can I sit for you?" Because because and he was a lovely man, so I really wish I'd done that. I don't know. I really like the idea of collaborating these days, so I'm collaborating more and more. So I'm doing things like I'm doing collaborations with yarn dyers. And then I'm going to do a book collaboration with somebody who writes patterns. So the idea of doing collaborations, say in painting or something like that, I'm really open to it at the moment. It's something, for me, it's just something that I'm really enjoying. And I've got meetings over the next 2 days with those people that I just talked about. But collaboration in the future, I can see it happening more and more.
You've spent loads of time in your life creating signs, which is obviously branding. And here we sell a lot of pop and street art. But something that I've realized is that, in my opinion, you were the first street artist I cared about. Because every single time I'd walk past a national lottery sign, I'd always look at it and think, that's my dad.
I'll put that up. Yeah. Well, it wasn't always the lottery. I mean, I mean, in the car with me, I mean, I do it every day. Yesterday we went past a van. I did that van, or I designed I designed that fascia, or I
Yeah,
I
exactly.
I put up that sign or whatever,
I
which
feel
is
like it's street art in my opinion. The sign designing is street art, and I know the person who I look at signs all the time and think my dad might have done that.
yeah, yeah.
So, Dad, the question that everybody really wants to know from you is who is your favourite daughter?
Can't say, can I?
Do you
Can't
not?
say.
Do you have a favourite?
No, no, of course not.
Oh, sure you don't. Oh, and also, who's your intro music by? I really like it.
What, on your on my YouTube?
Yeah, who's
It's
that
by
by?
you, by you. Very
No,
good. I get a lot of people ask,
no, you
but I've
do.
got nowhere to send them, have I? I've got nowhere to send them. You need to put it out, don't you?
You send them here. Send them right here. Send them over to Indelible, and maybe I'll
Yeah,
do one at some point.
you want indelible. Yeah.
So what's next for you, Father?
Well, at the moment, I it it has been it's been the busiest period painting wise I've ever had, because literally I've got. I mean, you said, you said before this interview, I'll get some knitting round you, get some paintings round you. Well, I haven't got any paintings to show you, so I said, well, I'm gonna have to send you some pictures and some paintings, because they're all out there. They're all out in the world, which is lovely. That's
Mm.
lovely. I suppose that's better than me sitting here saying, I've got these 10,
Mhm.
or whatever. Um, so the next thing for me, so what I'm doing, I've been getting up early, and I've been working on a batch of claws. And so I've prepped a lot of frames and put boards. So basically, what I do is I usually find old frames or antique frames or vintage frames, and then usually they've got like the one that I just finished had a picture of a nun in it, and it had glass in it, and I knocked the picture of the nun and the glass out, and then I put a piece of board in behind into the frame, glued into the frame, and then I prime that, and that's what I work on. So I've got a big stack of those now at the studio ready to go. So my plan is today. First of all, I do a lot of I deal with a lot of orders. So and they're usually for things like knitting patterns or kits and stuff like that. But I have got paintings to send out as well, and also I've got commissions for paintings that I'm working on. But I'm trying to get ahead a little bit with my claws. But the thing is, I don't know if you've seen some of my reels on Instagram, but
Yeah,
what?
what's that?
So I tend to take photographs throughout the process of making a painting, and that they can. I don't know where they're going when they start off. I don't know necessarily where it's going to go, and they're a bit like Trigger's broom. So I can literally start with a face and a background and a jumper and tattoos, paint it all, change one thing, and end up changing the whole thing. And it's like different face, different tattoos, different jumper, different background, different cat, because but anyway, what I'm saying is, they I quite I keep going until I find it. I know it's in there somewhere, and it's a battle sometimes to find it. Some days you can do a painting, and in a day it could be there. That's very rare. It's like, um is it Paul McCartney Blackbird? I
Don't
think,
know.
was it Blackbird? I don't know. Was it Blackbird? I don't know. Anyway, one of Paul McCartney's ones with, and he was like, just like it came to him in a dream or something, and then and he just wrote it, and then it was done. And so, and then, but other songs that you write, or painting. So they're just like hard work to get to somewhere where you're pleased with it. So yeah, I'm just working on the stuff and just hoping to be more productive with my painting, because I'm not producing as many. I'm not doing a Damien Hirst with these blossom. Although I do paint blossom sometimes. It's not.
We've got two of them in here.
What, the blossoms?
And we've got two red butterfly ones in here right now.
Yeah, well, they're nicer than the cherry blossom ones, because the
We
cherry
have some blossom ones as well that are actually coming in, which is cool.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I do like butterfly wings, though. They're beautiful ones.
It's really. I'll send you a video of it. It's really pretty. We did an unboxing, but yeah. Last question, Dad. Will you be attending our exhibition for Richard Hamilton on the 29th of October?
Yes, I will. I'm coming down to Brighton. I'm coming
Ooh.
down to Brighton, and maybe I'll bring you something when I come.
Oh, thanks. I look forward to it.
Hopefully, I will. Yeah, but yes, I will be at the Richard Hamilton private view. Is it a private view?
Yeah. So yeah, shout out to any Brighton locals who want to see the Knitting Man.
Oh yeah, come and talk to me. If anyone watches this and thinks, "Oh, I'm going to Richard Hamilton, I wouldn't mind talking to me." Yeah, I'm well up for chatting. I do quite a lot of chatting.
Yeah, you love it. So, yeah.
I do. Yeah.
All right. Thanks, Dad.
Okay.
I'll see you soon.
Yeah, I'll see you next weekend.
I'll see you next weekend. I look forward to it.
Out, Kit.
Oh?
When are you going to put this out?
Straight away.
Oh, okay. Okay. Don't forget to drop some paintings in so people know what I'm talking about.
Yeah,
okay.
That's all right. I'll cut and edit. That's all right.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Bye.
So hi to Mum for me. Bye.
Bye.
If you enjoyed this video, please like, subscribe, and click the bell notification. Thank you.